I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Kate Weiss from Table of Plenty. I don't know whether you know Kate, but her product is everywhere in supermarkets. She's coming out now. And this is a business with a big, big heart at its core. Life is a precious gift, and this truth hit home for Kate after she gave birth to her daughter with a disability. Digging deep and rediscovering a passion for life, her subsequent research into food... Oh, she's going to stand next to me as I introduce her. Her subsequent research into food, nutrition and wellbeing led to the creation of Table of Plenty. Hi. Good to meet you. I'll pass it straight over.
Oh, thank you. Do I have to hold this or it doesn't matter? Hi everyone. So it's a Tuesday night in spring, and it's one of those days where you can just feel that summer is about to begin, and I'm packing my bags to put them in the car and heading off. And do you know those moments in life where you're in the middle of something and you don't know that this moment is actually going to be totally defining for the rest of your life? Well, that was one of those. I'd been in Melbourne for about 7 months. My husband and I arrived here when I was 28, 2 suitcases in hand, nothing else. We thought we'd arrived in the land of opportunity. My husband's Israeli, I'm English, and I'd been living in Israel for about 7 years. We'd been in the IT industry. And we'd come for a year, come to do an academic... My husband was doing an academic degree in Monash Uni, and we thought, that's it. We're coming for a year. We'll go back, continue our lives. But it was not to be. So back to that day, I was actually on my way to the Mercy Hospital, and that was the day that my daughter came into the world. Excuse me, it's still a bit difficult for me to talk about it because it was, I'd been in my 20s. My husband and I were very idealistic. We traveled around the world. We were very much into spirituality and personal development and growth. And we came here. We weren't intending to start a family, and I got pregnant very quickly. And on that day in October, Amy was born, and she was before time, so she was only at 35 weeks. And she was only 1.1 kilos, so she was tiny. And for me, I think the moment I remember most is that I've got this photo that I saw a few weeks ago. I was going through photos because she's going to graduate, would you believe, at the end of this year. She's almost 18. There was this photo of me lying with this innocent face, smile on my face, and this tiny, tiny, tiny baby wrapped up. And I just look at that, and you just don't realize that everything's kind of going this way, and then you're going to go off in another direction. And my husband told me a few weeks ago as well that his first memory, or one of his memories of that first day when Amy arrived in our lives, was going down to a special care nursery with her, and he'd never seen a premature baby. He'd seen, puffy, round little babies, not these tiny little babies who look like they should still be inside. But what he said was he looked in her eyes, and what he saw coming back to him, he just didn't see the same kind of look that he'd seen in other newborns' eyes. And he suddenly had this flash of knowing that this was going to be a very long journey with her. So I fast forward to today, and Amy's about to graduate from school, and we have a very successful company that exports across the world. In Coles and Woolworths, we're established supplier. Really proud of the brand that we've built up. And I think, how did we get from there to here? And I wish I could tell you that it's A plus B equals C, follow this path and you'll get to where you get to, but it really isn't like that at all. For me, in fact, my creativity or the urge or the impetus to start Table of Plenty started from my darkest moments. After Amy was born, I did go back to work about 6 or 8 months later. I had to go back to work. It's not that I really wanted to, but it was impossible to be in a corporate career and to have a child like Amy and I got squeezed out of the workforce and ended up at home. And when you become a parent, as any of you who are parents know, it's not just, it does change your life. But I didn't just become a parent. We didn't just become parents. We became carers. And that's a totally different ball game. And I know that for me, it was this sense of I was a person who was out to explore the world. I was on the go. I left school. I literally moved the day after school. I moved out. The day after I finished uni, I moved to Israel. I was never somebody who didn't want to take on the world. And the experience for me of having a child and being at home with a child who needed my care and needed my love and needed my attention was suddenly this sense of limitation that I wasn't used to. And after a while, I thought to myself, if I'm going to be a good mother to Amy, then I have to find a way that I can re-stoke my fire and my energy, because I really became depressed by that sense of limitation. And that was really a point in my life where I had to go inside and I had to say, okay, what's speaking to me? How can I actually come out of where I am into a direction that I want to? And I think for me, when I looked at the kind of topic for today, I thought, how can I tell my story through the lens of manifestation? And for me, the first point was choice, that you have to have a choice. And every one of us in this room goes through life, and life will throw you a curved ball at some point. Guarantee it. I don't know if it might have happened when you were young, might happen older. For me, Amy was our curved ball, and it pushed me into a place in myself where I couldn't not really take stock of my life and say, okay, what do I want to do? What do I really want to do? So choice, I think, for me is the first point. And the second point was very much a mixture of practicality and also of vision. So my husband and I sat down and we said, okay, we have Amy. We've got this life that we, have always been interested in spirituality and growth and being good people, you could say. And how are we going to navigate now? How are we going to get back in the driver's seat? How are we going to actually elect to build the life that we want? And that was the genesis. I sat at home, and there were many times where I sat on the sofa at that point, and I was just staring at the wall. I didn't know what I was doing with myself. But I had to do something I loved, and that for me is creativity. And that's how I really got into product development, you could say, which is my passion in the business. I love food, I love nutrition, and I love making things. So that was the first thing, was I had to do something I was passionate about. And the second thing was less planning and just getting into action. I think that it wasn't like the grand plan that, I knew what Table of Plenty was going to look like now. It was really because I'd never been in business before. I'd never run a business. I'd never run a food business. I didn't come from food technology. It was really learning as I went. So I sat down and I started to make some products. I think it was even pre-Google. But, I had to find products. I had to source them. I had to cost them. I had to make them. And then I had to go out and find customers. And that's really was the baby steps from our kitchen and our home office. That's how it started. But I must say that even though it was kind of step by step, I did have a vision in that Tal and I, that's my husband, knew that we wanted to integrate into our lives something that would give back to the community, something that would provide a sustainable future for Amy and would be close to our passions, or what we call our point of plenty. Every one of us has got something that we connect to and that we're passionate about and that we can actually love doing and grow and find a way that can grow into our livelihood and something that we're creating into the world. I'm a great believer that when you get to the end of your life, you want to look back and say, I left something in the world that I'm proud of. And that was really something that we wanted Table of Plenty to be. So getting back to action, For Table of Plenty, again, it was a moment that allowed it to happen. Tal and I sat down in the kitchen and we said, okay, we've been selling, beautiful products to David Jones and wineries and places around Melbourne, but it was a very small kind of gourmet business. And we said, if this is really going to be something and we're going to be spending all these hours a day doing Table of Plenty, then we need to take it to the next level. And so we literally said, okay, tomorrow I'm going to pick up the phone to Woolworths. And that's exactly what we did. My husband actually did the call. He picked up the phone to Woolworths, and we got through to the buyer's secretary or assistant. And we said, oh, we're this little gourmet brand from Melbourne. I mean, we were turning about, $60,000 at that time. It was a real hobby business. And we've got this product called Dukkha. And she went, Dukkha? Oh my God, Dukkha. Well, and this was 2006, so it was a long time ago. She said, Dukkha? That's amazing. The buyer just went to the Hunter Valley this weekend and he came back. He's been in this winery. He's raving about this new product called Dukkha. And we're in review. So why don't you send up some of your products and we'll have a taste? So, that's total serendipity. So we sent them up, and basically that's how our journey with Woolworths began. So it took that moment and that courage and that action. Again, we had no plan. What do we do when we get into Woolworths? What does it mean to launch a product into a supermarket? Really, if I'd known, I don't know if I'd pick that phone up, because it's so much more than you think. Everybody thinks getting the product on the shelf is the difficult bit. That's the easy bit. Keeping it on shelf, making sure it sells and that it grows and that you've got the marketing and that it's sustainable. That's a totally different ball game, which we have learnt over the last 12 years. So that was really action. But I think that in order to sustain and to actually get the length of time and to where we've got in the business, there's a very, very other key element, which is you have to have a strong why. You have to have, because that's where the motivation comes from. That's where your power comes from. So I was thinking, how would I describe manifestation? And I thought to myself, manifestation is really, you have to have something to champion, and you have to have something that you believe in that will give you the power. And then from that power and that reason and consistent action, that's what manifestation is. And if you have that reason why that you draw on and you have to work at it, it's not something that's there, you decide it once. It's almost like you have that reason and you use it up, and then you need to go back and revisit, why am I actually doing this? What's in it? What's motivating me? And for us, it's been obviously the fact that we're providing a future for our daughter. It's been the legacy that I really wanted to provide, food that was nutritious and nourishing. And for us, the key words in Table of Plenty are nourishment and plenty. Nourishment is to do with nourishing not only through the ingredients and the quality of the ingredients, but through the quality of our packaging, the quality of what we do. Because for me, nourishment goes through emotional, your soul, goes so many more places than just physical nourishment. That's just where it begins. And Life of Plenty, which is the philosophy behind Table of Plenty, is all about those other levels of nourishment that go from the physical and then go everywhere else. And the second one is plenty, which is, for me, is a mind state. It's to do with taking myself out of that place where I was sitting on the sofa and staring at the wall and not knowing what to do with my life and really feeling, I suppose, a victim of my circumstances. Plenty's to do with stepping out of that space and saying and stopping in the morning and going, wow, I've opened my eyes. There's a planet. I'm on a planet that's floating through the universe. I'm actually here today. What am I going to do with my day? And everything is available to me. So taking yourself back into that place where you can start from nothing every day and create the day in front of you, that to me is another aspect. And you have to do that again and again. So go back to your why. So lost my way a little bit. So manifestation. So it's the reason why you do it that gives you the power. And then if you have consistent action that follows that reason, then nothing can resist you. It's like, it's almost like if you think about those stalactites in a cave that they drip and they drip. In the end, the stalactite at the bottom is going to grow up. It can't not. So keep doing it. Keep coming back to your fundamentals. Keep coming back to why you're doing it. Keep coming back to your core. Keep coming back to your passion. And obviously you need to do all the steps and the action. One can't live without the other. So yeah, I think every day is an opportunity. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, sure. Has anyone got any questions? Yeah. What did the first contract look like? You don't get a contract. Well, you do. They send you a massive terms and conditions sheet that you really can't question and you just need to sign. You're not going to send it to your lawyer and come back with 20 alterations. But you don't. It's a very insecure channel. So you'll sit with the buyer and you'll present your products, and then they'll say, okay, and then you give them the pricing, you give them how you're going to support it on shelf, how you're going to promote it, and then they'll say, okay, we'll get back to you in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and let you know if your product's on shelf. And then, officially now, because they've written the whole grocery code, you have 13 weeks to see if that product works. And if it doesn't, they can say it's off the shelf. So generally, we try and negotiate that we'll have at least 6 months and hopefully 12 months to really see if a product will work. And when you're a smaller supplier, especially if you're very small, they might be a little bit more lenient because they do try. It depends on the buyer you get. It's very much to do with the relationship with the person who's there, but they might try and kind of support you to give you a bit more time, but it's tough. It's very, very cutthroat and ruthless, so you don't have a contract. But once your product's there and it's established, the good thing about Coles and Woolworths and major customers, you know they're going to pay. They might make you wait for payment terms, but they will always pay. So, whereas if you have 100 or 1,000 little customers, a lot of your time is going to be chasing payment. Oh, again, that depends. That really depends. You have to fill up the stores. So, if you get a new product on shelf, they generally expect you to have 2 to 3 cartons per store. So 1 to go in the stores and 2 to go in the warehouse. So if you're in 600 stores, you'd be doing 1,800 cartons, not units, cartons, the shipping carton, for that first order. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we went back into our mortgage. We self-funded everything from zero and reverse mortgaged, basically, from our house. Yeah. We've got the house still, which is good. In fact, we've moved. Anyone else?
Hi,
Yes?
I've got one.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I've got the microphone over here.
Oh, where are you? Oh, there. Okay, sorry.
Hi. I'm just interested in you talking about, you're in a low place in the beginning.
Yeah.
I find myself in a similar position at the moment, trying to feel better and get out of it. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on how you changed your mindset to become happier and pursue your interests.
Wow, that's a very good question. I think the first thing I'd say is you have to be really, really real and really honest with yourself about where you are at. So there's one thing that I really don't believe in, which I see around a little bit, which is the whole idea of positive thinking. I get it, but I don't think that positive thinking is sugarcoating a pile of shit and pretending there's no shit there. Yeah? So, excuse my language, but you have to, if it's there and if you need to deal with some things, then deal with them. And it might mean going and getting some counseling or some help to help you work through. Because I'm absolutely sure that when you're in that point, it's telling you, and it's kind of like a signal that you're going the wrong way or that there's something missing. There's a great saying that I love, which is your allergies are your signposts to where you should be going. So if you're really reacting to something or something's bothering you, then look at it, because it's got a message, it's got something in it that's trying to tell you where to go. And out of that, the most interesting thing is that I think that your darkest point can really be very close to your real point, because things are really true. It's like things go into perspective when you're in a dark place. It's like the superficial stuff doesn't matter. It's like, you know what's actually real when you're in that place. So use it to get close to yourself and find out what's nudging you in the direction for your life. Okay.